Well, I think what we have is the globalists coming to power finally in the White House. So Steve Bannon's admission to the original sin of bringing in the establishment and the globalist part of the Republican Party has proven problematic. And now finally Trump is taking it back.
We also reported exclusively last year that H.R. McMaster's top aide was a globalist named Fiona Hill, who we traced directly to George Soros and his Open Society Institute. Now we have learned that it was Hill who facilitated the conversation between McMaster and Rice that has gotten McMaster fired. McMaster is on his way out. This has been reported publicly, but we now know the reasons. Trump is furious about McMaster's conversation with Rice, but even madder that McMaster publicly absolved Rice in the unmasking scandal.
All right, Ted Malloch is going to be joining us, a former head of the Davos Group, on the board of the Davos Group, Aspen Institute, you name it, but a patriot, an anti-globalist inside the globalist camp. We're going to break down Trump, what's currently happening. We're also going to open the phones up and take some of your phone calls. And is Zach from Space Command, is Zach going to be joining us? I wasn't sure if he was coming on today. If not, it'll be tomorrow. Okay, yeah. All right, so I want to get what's happening with the Pentagon there. We're going to go to Ted Malloch right now, and then we're getting Roger Stone on the phone. He texted me about 10 minutes ago with huge breaking news dealing with Fiona Hill, the George Soros operative that we exposed last year that is involved with McMaster and everybody. And just as Roger said in January that basically Rex Tillerson had already been fired and a lot of his duties and power stripped by the president, and then he would be removed in March. You saw that happen exactly as we said. We also broke it was a pressure bomb, very primitive bombs used to bomb in Austin yesterday. That's now in the news today. So I'm just telling you, we have the real sources. This Fiona Hill individual is the Soros operative in the White House with McMaster, and that Trump is really angry and is looking to remove them both. POTUS is pissed at McMaster for speaking to Susan Rice and defending her public ally, reported on InfoWars at the time. I just learned that the, and I can't read this part, is none other than the deputy Fiona Hill. George Soros, InfoWars exposed and how bad she was and how terrible it was that she was in the White House working for McMaster. So Trump is really cleaning house, and now Roger has got a chance to talk to the White House and find out exactly why the president is accelerating the purge right now. Ted Malloch's always got his ear to the ground. Let's find out from Ted what he thinks of the purges and all the things that are going on. And the deputy director, who was going to be the director, McCabe, as we knew, but now out, covering up for Hillary, lying to Congress, lying to the FBI director, lying to the Justice Department head. And now they're looking to fire him, I guess, ahead of criminal charges. So we're going to Roger here in just a moment as soon as we get him. Ted Malloch, this point in history, what's your intel? I know you've got a lot of high-level sources.
Well, I think what we have is the globalists coming to power finally in the White House. So Steve Bannon's admission to the original sin of bringing in the establishment and the globalist part of the Republican Party has proven problematic. And now finally Trump is taking it back. And he's removing those people, excising those people from his administration. I think that's very clear in the case of the Secretary of State, which many of us predicted 3-4 months ago. I did when I was on your show. We have Pompeo, who's certainly completely aligned with the president. Is basically a Tea Party congressman coming in as Secretary of State. We've got a woman who's tough on terror coming in to head the CIA.
We should be very pleased by Pompeo.
We should be very pleased. He's the real thing. And on the economic side, which is my normal beat, we've got Larry Kudlow, who is very well known, a Reagan supply side economist, obviously more free trade. than some people in the White House like Peter Navarro, but he's coming around even on that position, and I think that's going to be a lovely relationship.
Well, yeah, because I'm for free trade, but not when it's unfair. Wow, let's bring Roger Stone, and we'll continue with Ted Malloch joining us from London. People are saying, oh, my gosh, you know, Pompeo, oh, and this lady, the first woman had, under orders of Obama, she ran black sites. You got to arrest Obama if you're going to arrest her for this. Just grow up, folks. I'm against the torture. Ron Paul's against it. Rand Paul. Trump was openly for it because that's what goes on. Now he doesn't because the Secretary of Defense says it doesn't work well, more problems than it solves. I agree. But don't sit there on a high horse when Obama expanded torture. He didn't get rid of it and point at this lady. But that's a side issue. You just heard what Ted Malloch was saying. You've got big breaking news. We'll have you for a few minutes, Roger, about what the shakeup in the White House is really about and that the president is finally on the warpath.
Well, Alex, as you know, we reported exclusively here at InfoWars last year that the president was very unhappy with his National Security Director, General H.R. McMaster's meeting with Susan Rice, and subsequently by McMaster's public comments appearing to absolve Rice.
And you broke that 3 months before. In fact, give us the date. You broke here that at the very place he was, who he was having dinner with, he was drunk, talking tracks about the president. The New York Post was given it, didn't run it. You broke it here. 3 months later, it did break. Word for word what you said. So expand on that.
So now we know, we also reported exclusively last year that H.R. McMaster's top aide was a globalist named Fiona Hill, who we traced directly to George Soros and his Open Society Institute. Now we have learned that it was Hill who facilitated the conversation between McMaster and Rice that has gotten McMaster fired. McMaster is on his way out. This has been reported publicly, but we now know the reasons. Trump is furious about McMaster's conversation with Rice, but even madder that McMaster publicly absolved Rice in the unmasking scandal. Again, we here at InfoWars first identified Fiona Hill, the globalist, leftist Soros insider who had infiltrated McMaster's
And that's why
staff.
they're so panicked to get us off YouTube, off Google, off Twitter, openly suing us, Georgetown, Soros back, all of it, because put the article on screen for TV viewers, please. We broke this word for word in May 31st, 2017, bombshell, Soros insider infiltrates Trump administration. Then it was picked up by Newsmax, and then it was hand-delivered to the president at Mar-a-Lago, we can now reveal, back in the summer of last year. I mean, that's why they hate us, Roger. Go ahead.
You're absolutely right, Alex. You see, when McMaster spoke publicly absolving Rice, somehow those stories and clippings never got to the president. Well, when he did see them, he hit the roof. There's one thing Donald Trump despises above all else, and that's disloyalty. And he's clearly doing a house cleaning here. Now, I like Mike Pompeo. I don't understand his ongoing criticism of Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. But that aside, I do think he is more of an anti-interventionist than the McMaster clique.
Well, he's an American firster and is in line with the president. That's what matters.
Well, he was a member of the Freedom Caucus when he was in the House. He was cheering WikiLeaks on during the campaign, largely because of their exposure of the corruption of Hillary Clinton. This is all about to turn. Let me remind you that Chairman Nunes sent a letter to Brennan, Clapper, Rice, and others with a deadline of March 2nd to answer questions about their involvement with the dossier. We don't know what they have responded, but I think we are about to have a volcanic eruption.
How big is it, McCabe? The word is they're getting ready for criminal charges.
McCabe is the centerpiece of the criminal conspiracy to utilize the fake dossier fabricated by a foreign agent in league with a bunch of Russians and utilize it as evidence. McCabe is the chief perp. He is the guy who directed and approved the use of our tax dollars for payments to GPS Fusion.
Yes, is there any evidence that people are building that Mueller has rolled over to the president, and we see some of these new indictments and these new files looking at Democrats? I mean, I don't think Mueller was with the president all along like some think, but I think there's signs that he's starting to hedge his bets because no evidence was found and rolling.
Well, it's possible that Mueller will bring a few relatively low-level indictments against Democrats, but we don't know that Mueller is McCabe's target. We don't know that McCabe has been targeted by Mueller. McCabe may be targeted by the Trump Justice Department and not the special prosecutor. I think that's far more likely.
Well, they're talking about that right now. Wow. Roger Stone, bombshell information. I'm going to come back from break and get Ted Malloch's take on this, but just briefly with you then. What do we expect to happen with Fiona Hill? How long till she's out? How long until McMaster, the reported alcoholic nincompoop, reportedly he is just a total nincompoop controlled by the neocons who can't find his ass with both hands. How long until these idiots are out of the White House? We'll be back. Infowars.com, newswars.com, tedmalloch.com. Stay with us. All right, we're going to do the balance of the hour with Ted Malloch. I've been inside Davos, been on the board of directors of it, can really flesh out the battle between the globalists and America and where it's going, and Trump throwing globalists overboard now and really making this big turn. But finishing up with Roger Stone with this big breaking news, the president learned that the moles were through a Soros operative inside of the White House through McMaster and has now culling the whole thing out. So just in 2 minutes, Roger, break down why these people are departing, why he's gotten rid of Cohn, why is the Secretary of State, all of it, and get into this Soros operative lady that's the linchpin to it all. And again, you were saying the word is that McMaster is about to be toast.
He's clearly next on the hit list, Alex. First of all, we cannot underestimate the importance of the appointment of Larry Kudlow as the president's chief economic advisor. Many believe Kudlow should have had this appointment from the very beginning, but the globalists working internally were able to block him.
Well, let's be clear. You told me early on when he was president-elect that you were pushing Larry Kudlow.
I was among those definitely pushing Larry. Larry Kudlow was the individual who helped the president formulate what was clearly the most dynamic and pro-growth of any of the Republican candidates' economic plans. In the tax cut, the president is following the advice and game plan laid out by Kudlow. Now, the president has finally thrown the globalist Goldman Sachs insider Gary Cohn, who boasted, by the way, that he could have had the same job under Hillary Clinton had she been elected, to the curb, and has brought in a real Trump supporter, a real Reaganite, someone who is committed to economic growth. This cannot be underestimated in terms of its importance. Now, in the foreign policy realm, if the president cashiers McMaster, who is always an odd fit given the fact that he came from a nonprofit financed by the Rockefeller Foundation, the Ford Foundation, and yes, George Soros, prior to his position in the White House, and replace him with someone who is a non-interventionist, more aligned with Pompeo and the president, this will be a major, major internal coup. The president has the right to reassemble his hand, and he's doing so with some much, much better people.
So, it took months for this to come to a head. How long do you think McMaster and Fiona Hill can stay in? Then who else needs to be thrown overboard?
Well, we know that the president first took note of Fiona Hill because of our reporting here at InfoWars. Now he's put two and two together and figured out, and we've confirmed this morning, that Fiona Hill was the one who engineered his communications with Susan Rice. Susan Rice, the former national security advisor for Barack Obama, and the woman who ran the criminal unmasking operation and is knee deep in the entire dossier fiasco. I believe McMaster's days are literally numbered. The real question will be whether or not he is replaced by somebody better. There is a major report by Jack Posobiec about a longtime John McCain associate who is maneuvering for this job. This is Washington intrigue at its very best.
That's right, but now a direct pipeline to the Obama operatives that did the unmasking, the criminal spying, the lying, all of it, setting up the PP Gate, all of it, the Stay Behind Network and the FBI and Justice Department, a direct pipeline to them through McMaster and Fiona Hill, right back to Obama, still trying to control policy from his office 2 miles away. Incredible. We'll get all of tomorrow's news today. Thanks to Roger Stone. Thank you, Roger.
I'll be on the War Room at 5 Eastern today with an update.
All right, let's go back to Ted Malloch for the rest of the hour. Ted, thanks for sitting there. We have that breaking news, but I'm sure you can dial into all that, and we'll get into some other subjects the next segment, but your take on what you just heard.
Well, as usual, Roger is absolutely spot on. I can tell you that it looks like Attorney General Sessions is actually going to fire McCabe tomorrow, and that will mean that McCabe will not get his large U.S. government pension. In other words, he'll get the justice he deserves. Fiona Hill is likely to be out on her ass in the next day or two. McMaster may have 30 days left. We all know his time is like the clock. It's ticking away. Trump is actually interviewing, as Roger suggests, people for that position. I'm told he's talked to a couple of generals, and I know personally he's talking and has talked to John Bolton, among others. So this is really a period of deep change in the White House. I don't think this is ever going to end until Trump gets what he wants and the people he wants in those slots.
But we can't be too confident. How will the globalists strike back? With all this Stormy Daniels crap?
Oh, well, I think that can be put to the side. That's just a kind of infatuation of CNN. I guess it's now a pornography network as well as a so-called fake news network. I mean, the bigger story for me, Alex, and one I know you and your readers and listeners are very keen on, is this story of the dossier, what I call the plot to destroy Trump. And indeed, I have a book coming out on that. It'll be out in the next 30 or 45 days. It basically puts all the dots together to tell the story about how the Democrats fashioned, in fact, nothing less than a coup d'etat of our President Donald Trump.
And I've read some excerpts to know what you're doing. This book is key for Congress and the media and everybody to have a blueprint for prosecution. This is way beyond the Nunes memo.
Oh, yeah. No, this is the big 30,000-foot view. It connects all of the dots. I've been researching it very confidentially and talking to all kinds of people for the better part of 60 to 90 days. And we have been pulling it together, and I'm very happy to say I just saw the final type print, and it's going to press.
You know, I also know you're a theologian amongst your other degrees. What's the Bible verse? We'll look it up where you dig a pit for your brother, you fall into it. I mean, you can really see how they built this whole thing to destroy Trump, but basically just mirrored it off what they'd actually done, and now they've stepped in a bear trap.
Well, indeed, and this GPS fusion firm, of course, is the one that had the nefarious ideas, hired the Christopher Steele. In fact, what I disclosed in this book that, and this has not been, I think, discussed anywhere else, GPS fusion also did work for one President Barack Obama when he was looking for opposition research on Mitt Romney.
That's right, and we're going to go to break and talk about this. I want to get some into Russia. What do you think about Trump going for this thing out of England, and you're over there in England when we come back? Is there any truth to the Russians nerve gassing? I don't see any proof. So why would Trump launch all these sanctions and things? It seems like he's doing so many good things, but on this end, he's kind of buying in to the whole neocon fever swamp.
Well, there was a significant attack in this very lovely cathedral city, Salisbury in England, where a former GRU Soviet intelligence officer and his daughter were somehow affected with nerve gas. What the name of that nerve gas is, I think, has not been disclosed. The Brits call it Novichok, but we don't know
exactly.
What it is
so I'm going to hear from you in England if you think there's any validity to this and where this is going. With Ted Malloch, straight ahead, tedmalloch.com. Find all his books there. I'm Alex Jones.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
You're a white man! You're a white man!
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
InfoWars comes to mind.
Alex Jones.
Alex Jones.
Alex Jones.
There's a lot of controversy around this network about Alex Jones.
Google is being accused of hiding negative stories about Hillary and her campaign by changing its algorithm to bury stories like the Clinton body count story. That's according to website InfoWars.
It sounds like it's confirmed there are at least 2 shooters with fully automatic weapons.
Dr. Martin Luther King
has been shot to death in Memphis, Tennessee.
JFK was shot from the back and the front.
It was almost as if it were a planned implosion. It just pancaked.
They took the babies out of the incubators and left the children to die on the cold floor.
I think this is a national security imperative. We have clear things that we do not understand how they work, operating in areas that we can't control.
UFOs.
Is this global governance at last? Is it one world, the central bankers in charge?
Israel claims the attack was accidental, but some former U.S. naval officers say it was on purpose. They describe the day's action as part of a continuing cover-up.
Russian intelligence compiled a dossier on Mr. Trump during visits to Moscow.
Russian scum!
Denied everything. He called it all fake news.
And he accused CNN of being fake news.
This is a national emergency.
If they kill Trump or remove Trump, it will cause a massive civil war in this country.
This is a FEMA high-level alert.
We are at war with Russia.
Are you aware that Mr. Stone also stated publicly that he was in direct communication with Julian Assange and WikiLeaks?
The White House and the President are citing InfoWars.
They could shut us down. You're next.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance. It's Alex Jones.
Over a year in the making, produced by one of the top organic firms in the country, that if you want proven studies and documentation, I mean, I can speak for hours just on the files I have here, of what this is proven to do, the ingredients in this. This is the ultimate immune system boost for this time of year, any time of the year. But Immune Wall is incredible. And folks, other formulas that aren't even as good are $70, $80. It's a great deal at $39. Immune Wall, beta-glucans, olive leaf, and so much more. It is concentrated. You need to go read what is in here. The mushroom blend of the most expensive, highest quality mushrooms that just incredibly accelerate. A citrus peel blend. I mean, this is the next level. It's now available, ladies and gentlemen, Immune Wall. I think it's beyond seasonal. Beta, glucan, olive leaf, and more. Immune Wall, InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com, or 888-253-3139.